Hi everyone, and welcome back to the latest installment of the Academic Senate President's Report covering March 2020, and actually I'm taking it back a little bit to February. So I'll be covering, I believe, 3 board meetings in this report, so kind of a lot of information to look over, but important information. As always, when you go to YouTube, just go to the time index, and that's found by scrolling to the very bottom. When you see that time index, click on the keyword, and that takes you immediately to the video section that deals with that item. I realize that not everyone will watch the entire report in its entirety, but to make 20 smaller reports and upload those as videos would be kind of a pain. So it's a lot easier to use the time index. The way I see it is that it's one long video, but it's actually composed of smaller videos that are their own little segments. So just check that out if you're curious to jump ahead or jump to some specific topics. So let's cover the February meeting. So February 11th, 2020 Board of Trustees meeting. First off, the Superintendent President, Jeff DeFranco, gave his report. And often these have a lot of pertinent items that don't make it as actual action items. This one in particular I thought was quite interesting. So as you know, we're teaching the Promise program. We're operating the Promise program, which involves a first-year experience class. It involves a lot of different components you know about. And this particular model has been replicated across the country. So this one in particular I thought was interesting, and it's a model in the Ohio community college systems. And this is the actual report. I won't go through the whole thing. It's very detailed. It talks about demographics. It talks about specific cases of students. And one of the things that President DeFranco mentioned that I think makes it interesting is that it costs more money per student to run a Promise program like we're running, but it's actually cheaper per degree. So once you start to measure things based on degree or the issue of completion, and you actually find that in the report here on page 53, so you can see the direct costs, the base, the indirect costs. That would actually be kind of interesting to look at. And then section 7 of the report is a comparison between their programs in their community college system and the original CUNY ASAP model from the City University of New York. So I do recommend you look at this. As always, you can, I don't always link it from my report, but if you go to the board docs, every board item has a link, and you can click on that if you want to share it with someone, or you could just click on the PDF. And so this is available indeed in board docs. So just go to board docs, go to that meeting, and you could read the report in its entirety. So, and this summarizes it again, more per student than usual services, but lower the cost per degree. And as we've moved to this new funding formula that you know about here at the college, and of course all the community colleges in California, this is really what we need to be looking at, is cost per degree or certificate, because of course our funding formula is no longer solely based on students and seats in our classroom. Snow Globe Music Festival, so some lengthy discussions. I believe the 2 meetings I attended, there were both presentations of community members, and I think a lot of concern is always about the issue of noise abatement, the issue of trash, the issue of security. There have been some concerns in the past. For people that live in this area, I think, and we often hear community comment from folks who are right in this region. They are concerned about the sound, of course, and then they're also concerned about fireworks. And one woman came in, I'm forgetting her name, but she had a really impressive poster that she created that had all the fireworks, and it talked about where the fireworks landed, the toxicity of them and all this kind of stuff. So I actually found like the public comment the last few board meetings about Snow Globe to be really enlightening, just learning about the issues. The president made the point that the city with the ball fields has control over hosting events there. So it's not like we have full control over even hosting Snow Globe. Of course, there are provisions always about spaces that can be used on our campus, particularly when it affects opening of winter quarter classes where they pay penalties because as you know, like this year, they leave their equipment and their trucks in those parking spaces, which could affect us potentially. So I thought just very good presentation, getting more information. The board was collecting information, and I would say the board is very critical about protecting the college, particularly in terms of liability. They're very careful about making sure that we're fairly compensated for any fees or any issues that might arise from damages to the fields and all that kind of stuff. So Snow Globe update, and I would suspect as long as Snow Globe continues it will always have a place on the board agenda. Another issue that was, I thought, very nice in terms of partnerships between cities, the City Council, or the City of South Lake Tahoe City Council. So they approved a sister city agreement with Amaca, Mexico. Recommend you click on the agenda item in the board meeting. I know that Terry Tibbetts went and met a delegation of people. I believe there were a number of people from South Lake Tahoe. There was a proclamation that our Board of Trustees passed, and that was also delivered. So a really nice effort there just to have a sister city program. And that is it for February 11th Board of Trustees meeting. I'll give you next February 25th Board of Trustees meeting. I have to say I actually missed this meeting. I was away for a conference during this time, but I will give you the agenda items. And the nice thing is that I typically at the Pact meetings, if I do miss a meeting, because I attend Pact, I will take some notes and try to bring out the context, because President DeFranco will typically give you an overview in Pact of what happened at the board meeting, because he realizes that a lot of the folks on Pact don't necessarily attend the board meetings. Congratulations to our new accountant, Gregory Dupre. He is our former payroll specialist. I suspect shortly we'll be opening that position for payroll specialist, as it's a really important position. So congratulations to Gregory. From the Superintendent President's Report here from the February 25th meeting, there was a letter in support for the Prop 13 vote, and I can just show you that letter of support, what that looks like. The following resolution is provided at the request of the board chair to have the board demonstrate its support for the March 2020 ballot initiative, Proposition 13, through Resolution 3, 2019 to 2020. And I'm not going to go through all this, but basically if you're voting on this, it's one of these where yes means yes. That's always confusing when you vote on ballot initiatives. I have this all the time in Nevada. Read the thing over and you're like, do I vote yes or no? Because it's worded so strangely. So it's nice to know if you support this, vote yes. And I would argue, as our board is, that we should certainly support this effort. So more on that as we approach March. Winter enrollment. So this is the basic news, and then I'll go into the detailed information. The good news is winter enrollment is up. I just will click on it because I was going to give you a number, but I don't know if that's right. I was going to say ballpark of over 10%, I think is the number I have in my head. But let's look. So Elizabeth Ballant presented this, of course. And you see then our trends. And so if you can make this on the camera here, the orange is the current winter 2020, the green is winter 2019, and the blue is winter 2018. So comparing winters. And you know there's always been that uniqueness because of our ski season, our weather, of winter being a unique quarter as compared to fall or to spring or summer, of course. But it's showing you just the daily enrollment trends. You can kind of see some of those patterns just in terms of when that levels off. And it's giving our numbers as well. We can also look at head count. So just going back 1 year, 3229 head count, 3274. So a little bit higher there. Huge difference between winter 2017. I believe some of this is from Wilderness Education. We'll have to get to that, but that's something that is typically, this is head count total, I'm just looking here, and this is head count face-to-face and online credit and non-credit, and then head count by unit load total, seat count, enrollments by modality. So this is one that's always, one to look at. You can kind of see online versus face-to-face. And then weekly student contact hours. The president often mentions in these meetings that that's the number really to look at. So if you compare last year winter, this year winter, 19,692 this year, last year 19,176. So a little bit of a bump, and then certainly again compared to those years, winter of 2017 and 18, pretty dramatic there. So the trend is we're moving upwards, right? So that's always a positive thing. Now, the bad news, and here's also ISP. See, ISP is getting to a point, I've heard in some meetings where Shane and others have said that, just the dramatic nature of this, it just shows you how much the program has grown. And it's, I think, a message for the college, right? When you start a new program, and they were successful really from the get-go, but just look at the difference now in terms of the head count and the WISHE data, 966 to 3412. So when you start a program off and you give it a couple years, you invest staffing in it, you invest resources, it can really start to explode. I just talked to Shane today, and he was saying somewhere around 16% of our enrollments are made up by ISP. So that's kind of exciting to see some of that news. I won't go through all this. It's a really nice report. Again, if you have questions and comments, you can see Elizabeth or anyone else up in institutional research. So the second part of this, though, is like good news, right? Winter enrollments are up pretty dramatically. Bad news is the new funding formula, right? Not necessarily bad news, because enrollments play a part, but in that pie of what primarily, unless you're a basic aid district, what primarily used to be funding based on the number of students and seats, now we have all these other factors, and completion is one of those key factors, which you'll actually see some agenda items coming up here in a bit with the EVS and some other changes in curriculum and degrees and some of the work we're doing at CLEM that I think really does support this idea of moving towards strategies that will address the new funding formula. So some good news there for sure. HSI Grant application. A number of us have been involved in this the last 2 years we've applied. We were real close last year. I have a pretty good feeling we'll know by April 24th if we get it or not. The main areas to give you an overview, we're planning to upscale promise and equity programs. A lot of those efforts have been very successful, and also do some work with faculty professional development. I had made some recommendations to Laura Salinas about possibly doing a little bit more, even with our DE classes, to up more of the multicultural, pluralistic content there, diversity statements, do some trainings for our DE faculty as well. So that could be really, I think, helpful if we get the grant. It's a couple million dollars. It's certainly more work for people, but it also does bring people and resources to campus to help us out with those important items. And just to show you that item, if you want to look at the board agenda, go to the appropriate date, click on the item, and it will tell you everything about the item. In this case, it has the abstract for the project, and it doesn't have the entire grant, but it's pretty good. It has most of the information that you need to look at in terms of the project. Going back to the agenda, you probably heard that the FHP process, we just were approved to get 2 new faculty hires, so it's exciting news for the district. A new counselor position to replace the position of Aaron Barnett, who is retiring. It'll be a 200-day position. And then the culinary hospitality position to replace the position that the late Mark Davis occupied. So very important. A number of you have already volunteered for those committees. I'll send out another reminder, but there's been a lot of interest in the culinary hospitality, so thank you for that. Probably won't get everyone on there. I know there were maybe more than 4 people, so we'll see how that goes, but if you don't get it this time around, maybe you can be on the counseling position or any of the other positions coming up, because there'll be quite a few. Really good housing report as well. Jonathan King reported on efforts with recruitment. We have currently 18 students in student housing. In the fall, we appear to be getting 11 Russian students, and we might be adding another RA as well. And we can click on the agenda item if you want to look at it. It has all the fine details, and you can look at the nuance. It tells you about the connection to the board goal, and then this is the actual report itself. So it tells you just about the facilities, it tells you the number of students, it talks about the population in terms of gender, male, female, transgender, international, athletes, foster youth, housing insecure, and just really good information. So if you're curious about housing, it's another opportunity to look at our board agenda and click on it. And I have to say, over the years, we've really improved that process. Since we've received, or since we've been using board docs, it's just a great opportunity to get all the details that you might miss if you don't attend board meetings, because most people don't attend board meetings. You can listen to the podcast, but certainly downloading the agenda items is a great way to read more about the particular issue that's come up. We also have the 2 sunshine lists, and I believe at tonight's board meeting here, March 10th, I think we're getting the final approval. We can click on those. If you're at all curious, again, if you have questions, if you're classified staff or you are faculty, you can talk to the appropriate parties. This has the sunshine list for the CEU. I'm not going to go through all of it. And then also on here is the sunshine list for the faculty association. Okay, so if you're curious, again, talk to your officers or negotiators, reach out to them, and they can get you all the appropriate information about what's happening with those items. A big report on the Art Lab Air Quality Project, Al Frangione reported on. As you know, it's a health issue. It's also connected to our RFE, or Remodel for Efficiency, and it comes somewhere in at about $300,000. We can look at that agenda item. And this is one of these where I would say it's super important. Anytime you have the word health in front of something and air quality, you want to take that very seriously. So this just describes the construction firm hired for it. It talks about the project, the plan. It gets into an air filtering situation and talking about the silica, which happen when you do the 3D art projects. Okay, so very important to make sure that that is safely evacuated from the air such that it is not harming anyone's health. So really good to see that happening in my mind. Also, the EVT and ETS degrees and certificates are undergoing quite a bit of changes. I won't tell you all those changes, but I happened to run into Scott Valentine when I was meeting in instruction, and he had these nice brochures. I snapped some quick shots. So this talks about the degrees, the certificates of achievement, and the employable skills certificates. It has sort of a pathway that talks about, employable skills and the major prep. I like how they designed this. It talks about that leading to a certificate and then eventually to an Associate of Science, Environmental Science degree, or Associate of Art, more focused on Environmental Studies degree. So it's kind of nicely laid out. It also has the geology and geography. So this is an example, I think, of more of a guided pathways model where we're moving towards this kind of understanding of degrees and certificates. Helps us with pathways, certainly helps us with the funding formula. And then this has all the course sequencing that you can see here. And I'll mention something later about how this also connects to the work happening in CLEM, the College Learning Enrollment Management Council. Let's talk about Pact from February 27th, 2020. And there's been a presentation going around through the governance councils. You'll see a new policy on campus accessibility. And it actually ties in nicely with a recent event we just had today here on the 10th. And this was Kelly Greiner and Trevor Thomas giving a talk, teaching talk number, can't believe it, 14 already, on accessibility and note-taking. And I am still working on the video for this, but we did do the live cast. Once the video is ready to go, I will put that up on YouTube and you can check that out. There's also some information about how to access the accessibility training through Canvas, what's called Section D, that if you're a part of the CVC OEI project or anything related to online teaching in Canvas, you've probably heard about. But it was great to hear Kelly in her presentation talk about Glean, this new software, and I won't talk too much about that because you can watch the video and it has all that good information about it. But I was really happy to hear about some of the technologies out there, and I like that Kelly offered this handout about note-taking. And it's really good because it just talks about how note-taking is so important for students. And I said, this is something that we need to share with our Promise class. And I heard that the Glean program is being used with the Promise class. What Glean basically is if you're giving a lecture, the student can record that lecture, currently only on a Chromebook or a laptop, so we probably need the app functionality for this to be applicable really to most of our students. But you could record the lecture, and then after the fact you can annotate, you could give headings to specific sections in the lecture. You can also put up emojis and emoticons and things like that to highlight certain sections of the lecture. So really cool software, and I think it's something potentially we could look at piloting down the road if there's enough student interest and also faculty interest. So more to come. I will leave the content to the information provided by Kelly and Treva in the video that I'll be featuring shortly. So let's jump to the Board of Trustees meeting for March 10th. And the first item is coronavirus response. And you're actually going to see coronavirus come up twice in my presentation. We can click on what's been presented or what's being presented at tonight's board agenda. And you can see that an email went out and it has a lot of key points about what we can do to protect ourselves, talking about the symptoms. If there are any concerns and you think you're sick, stay home. It's underlined there. And it says here, I've said stay home twice. Self-quarantining is by far the most effective way of keeping the virus contained. And there's more information here, Center for Disease Control and WHO, the World Health Organization. I ran into Carl Franz, who is an expert on SARS, chemistry, biology instructor, and he just had so many good insights. I was asking him questions about, how long could it live on the surface and these kinds of issues. So it's a great time for us to be very proactive, to do the safety related things. A lot of us in our offices have disinfectant stuff. I've got, if you can see my sign over there, wash your hands. It's really important that we do this kind of stuff. It's cheap to do, it's easy to do. It protects us from other viruses as well, and the common cold and the flu and all that kind of stuff. So good information. I'm coming back to this in just a second, so I'll say what I have to say. about part 2 related to contingency plans for spring for part 2. So let's hold off on that. It was great to see so many people at Tahoe Dancing with the Stars. As you know, Jeff and Robin were our local team in terms of the college. There was also a lot of other people who knew others from the high school and Barton and some of the local restaurants. Really great event. And I was actually sick, so I gave my ticket to Kata. I was glad that she was able to go with her husband. And just really super event, seeing so many just talented dancers. I mean, it's pretty amazing if you watch the actual show on ABC. It's just amazing to see that people in a short period of time can get so good at dancing. And granted, some people have experience in the past, but still, it's just amazing to see people creating the high quality routines that they do. Jeff and his partner Robin did come in second, but they won the award in terms of fundraising, which was over $27,000. If you participated in that, if you supported, it goes to a great cause in terms of PAL, Performing Arts League here in Lake Tahoe. So congrats to everyone participating, congrats to all the money raised and all the people who donated. Really great event and always exciting to see. New employee introduction, Hugo Perez has been hired as our evening lead groundskeeper custodian. I know that's a position we've been really excited about filling, and so we're just excited to see Hugo. So if you see him if you teach in the evening, please say hello to him and give him a warm welcome. We also had the recognition of Bill Biko as the Employee Excellence recipient for fall quarter 2019. Bill is such a great worker, worked with him on many projects, and it's just so exciting to see him gain this prestigious recognition here at the college. He actually was to have been awarded this a few board meetings back, but due to scheduling couldn't make it, so really exciting to see he'll be there tonight. The Natural Science Program Plan, very important to check out our program plans. This has gone through all the governance councils, so I won't go over it in depth, but as usual, go to our board agenda, click on the agenda item, and check out, you can get the executive summary here in terms of the goals of the program, and then you can click on the actual program itself to get all that nuance in the weeds detail if you're curious about things. And who knows, as we're moving towards MetaMajors, you may have something that connects to one of the other MetaMajors, and so it might be worth looking at a program like this or any of the other program plans, the comprehensive program plans, just to see what's happening in terms of demographics, in terms of course offerings, course enrollments, certificates, degrees, productivity, staffing, all that kind of fun stuff. So really good to see that. Congrats to all involved in terms of that work. It's such important work, but it's a lot of work to do, having done quite a few of these and having led one in the past for the art comprehensive program plan. Also exciting to hear Dr. Walter Morris's PDL leave report. It focused on the opportunity to research and assess the feasibility of Lake Tahoe Community College adding an intercollegiate cross-country running program. We can click on that board item. And what I love about the PDL presentations is they have a lot of pictures and graphs and a lot of good context for the board to see, to really look into what faculty members gain when they undertake a PDL leave and what kind of information they bring back. And this just has the background about cross country. It's a very inexpensive one to run in terms of facilities and other budgetary items. He looked at 3 specific programs: UC Davis, American River, and Butte College. And there's some pictures of Walter. I think we'll hear this tonight. It looks like probably meeting with maybe the head coaches and the staff. So pretty cool to see that. Focus was to learn about running a successful cross-country program in terms of training and recruiting. Talks more about the training and the recruiting here. Talks about how our program was discontinued 19 years ago. I do vaguely recall we had a program. Our coach was part-time, earning about $6,000 per year. We currently do not have a track team. A lot of recognition as to why track matters. And then here's some images of, looks like local track runners. I'm not sure what this event is. Again, I'm doing this before the board meeting, so tonight I'm gonna get all that context, but it's all the runners here. And then a thank you. And we can also go back and click on the report itself. And the report typically will have more details than the actual PowerPoint, which is to give you the main highlights. So this talks about the meetings like we saw at Butte College and UC Davis, and then talks about, looks like warm-up routines, so kind of getting some dynamics about what a schedule might look like in terms of student athletes, nutrition, recovery methods, recruiting, conclusions and recommendations. And this talks about, again, about the past program 19 years ago, the issues that were faced. And I'm just going to try to see the summary of this. And it says here, I believe it is possible to participate successfully in track with exclusively or predominantly distance runners, and I believe we could gain access to middle school track. After researching and reflecting on what it would take to field a competitive cross-country team at the college, I'm convinced that this can only be accomplished if we create a track team, if we field a track team as well. Thus, I recommend we add the one, we also add the other. So if we add cross-country, we would also add track. And it says here, thank you to the president and the vice president, and it has the budgetary information here as well. So looks like pretty useful. I like how it's really specific to growing something new here at the college, particularly having that budgetary information. So just really well done. I look forward to Walter giving that presentation tonight and hearing more about the context of it, but just really exciting, and I congratulate Walter and others who have their professional development leaves coming up. It's always great to hear about what the faculty are doing in their areas of expertise. So congratulations, Walter, on your successful project. We also had a report about the successful hospitality week that happened up in Pullman, Washington. I believe this happens every year. We can just click on here. I haven't looked at this, but I think it just shows you what they call Bellhop Week 2020. It has some of the pictures, and you can click on that and gain some insights and look at the speakers and all that other fun stuff. So I believe we sent a team of 4 this year. I think it was Nancy, Tara, Frank, and Brad. So we had University Center, Foundation, Advance, and our Dean of Workforce and Instruction attending. So really exciting to see that they participated, and I've heard through the grapevine that it's a great opportunity just to recruit future people to our college. It could be for faculty hire like we have coming up, or even students. So it's kind of cool to see that there is an opportunity to do a little recruitment in this trip as well. Exciting news. So we have a lot of tenure decisions here happening. So one big tenure decision, so congratulations to Behnaz Gangursky, who is our new tenured, as of tonight, our new tenured faculty member in biology. We will be doing, I like to keep it kind of a little bit secret, but we'll be doing a celebration in spring quarter. I'm working with some folks right now, more information on that to come, so we'll kind of try to keep that a secret. And then also congratulations to the 2-year contracts extended to Dr. Clinton Culp and Dr. John J.D. Dirk, and then a 1-year contract for Kelly Greiner, Kata Goralski, and then Sarah Marquez. No action required on Julie Ewing and Melanie Chu, since they have 2-year contracts extending through 2020 to 2021. So congrats to all involved, and particularly to Dr. Gangursky for this great accomplishment here, achieving tenure at Lake Tahoe Community College. It's always exciting, and we're just so happy to have you as a faculty member. You're wonderful, and we will be doing something special for you in the near future. So try to keep that a secret. So I'll address that to the faculty, and then we will we'll work on that for spring quarter. So keep that on your radar. Let's look then at some odds and ends that were items not necessarily related to what happened in some of the board meetings. So the first of these, I mentioned earlier that in CLEMC, the College Learning Enrollment Management Council, we've been looking at going through the entire catalog and looking at degrees and certificates and making some recommendations. I believe the plan is that the deans will start to meet with faculty in some of those areas affected by those recommendations. Some of these are easy. As an example, I had said, because I'm the full-time faculty member in Social and Anthro, even though I have the new position as well, but I said, let's really eliminate the local anthropology degree. It's not serving a community need, it's not serving a labor market need that cannot be served through the ADT, the Associate Degree in Transfer in Anthropology. We're looking at the whole catalog. I think we're making some pretty good progress. If your area comes up, your dean may talk to you, and please look at it as a productive conversation. I think the discussions have been very good. They've been honest, but they've also been productive in terms of really looking at things from a more holistic level, not necessarily involving those direct faculty in areas that will happen at the next level with the deans and the faculty. So more to come on CLEM as we move through spring quarter. Honor Roll celebration today, really great event. So many students getting 4.0 averages, so many students on multiple honor rolls over multiple quarters. It's great to see that recognition. It was great to see Shauna, our new director of student life there, and really doing such a nice event. And so it's really cool just to see the honor roll every year and to see that recognition of our students happening. So if you had a chance to attend, thank you for attending. There's always a free lunch involved, and it's just a great opportunity for us to really recognize student excellence here at Lake Tahoe Community College. Okay, so we're back to coronavirus here a little bit, and it's kind of a bummer talking about coronavirus. So earlier I talked about just sanitizing and that kind of fun stuff. So this, and there is some sanitizer. So if you come to my office, I have it. I'm always spraying stuff down. I even have bought some, I have some rubber gloves for Costco that I've been trying to use. And just really important if we control any of that stuff that can get in our hands and then we touch our face and then maybe we become infected. So that's like a great line of defense, is just to practice great hygiene. I know for our upcoming hiring committees, I stopped in HR today, and Laura and Shelley were really kind and said, we're going to craft a memo, because I talked to a few of the folks on our upcoming sociology hiring committee, and I said, maybe we should just say something to the candidates. Hey, we're not trying to be rude, but we're not going to do handshakes or anything physical, because we do want to protect all of us. And I know some candidates on a lot of the upcoming hiring committees will be doing probably virtual interviews. They were so gracious to draft a memo and send that memo out. It's going out to all candidates for all positions coming up. So thank you to HR for really being on top of this and being proactive and making all of us safe. I really do appreciate that, and I think probably most of you do as well. Now, there's another side to this, and I'm not going to get into. There's a risk management team. I believe the faculty on there are Trevor Thomas and Carl Franz, and Carl has experience studying SARS, you might know from his bio and chemistry backgrounds. So that team is kind of dealing with all the policy stuff, and I'm not aware of what is happening. I am pretty intimately involved in a plan for Canvas. Trevor Thomas went through and created a spreadsheet, and actually, just for the heck of it, because I might be able to do a little better job here of giving you, okay, we'll find it here. I thought if I open that spreadsheet, it's going to give you a little bit of context of what our contingency plan is here. Okay, and actually Dr. Risden yesterday sent out an email. I'm not going to read this, but it's very specific about what we're doing with the Canvas Shell project. So I refer you to that email. It's March 9th, 2020, 3:20 p.m. So check out that email because it has all the information as it stands. I believe there's a spreadsheet on here that I really wanted you to see. And I don't think this has gone out specifically, but it's telling us, we were actually at the time including winter faculty. We'll knock on wood, hopefully we won't have to close, but this virus is so fast moving you don't know. But we were thinking about winter faculty. I believe right now we're talking around 90 faculty to train. I'm trying to find the info for spring quarter. I believe the number is about 90 faculty for spring quarter. So the winter faculty, we're assuming now, because we have 2 weeks left and then finals, we're going to make it through. We don't know what's going to happen. I think you talk to anyone on that risk management team and they're trying to follow the news as we are. They're trying to make some scientific judgments, some public health judgments and all this kind of stuff. It's never easy. We have the contingency then in place, and it's something that specifically at a Pact meeting I said, I think I was a little pushy on this. Sometimes you kind of know my style. If there's something I think is of utmost importance, I might push a little bit. And I did push on this one a little bit. I said, let's commit to it today. And right after that meeting, I sent an email to the team, senior leadership folks. I sent it to Treva and I said, hey Treva, can we do this? And Treva was amazing. She came back in a matter of like 24, 48 hours and had that entire list created. What we're then going to do is take that list and specifically look at classes that could be offered online. So if you had some sort of outdoor education class, a wilderness education class, or some PE or some lab science classes, or a 3D art class, I don't know what would happen at that level. I'm not even going to say. Could we offer that class some instruction online if we were, let's say, best case scenario, closed 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then we'd come back to campus, assuming we could come back, right, because everything's so fast moving, and then you could go back into your physical space and get caught up on that stuff. We don't know what's going to happen. We can't say. If it's a class like sociology or poli-sci that's taught in person, because those classes are already taught online and ISP, we can easily adapt it. So we'll be working over the next 2 weeks quickly trying to get people trained, and we're going to look and identify those folks, have some conversations. We have some trainings coming up, and that is this week and also next week, and there'll be probably some others. I'm going to do Zooming. Trevor will be involved. I just created last night, and we're looking at it now. The team is kind of looking at it now just to make sure we have everything that's needed. But I created this Canvas the Basics PowerPoint that really will take you through the key areas of Canvas, and it's not trying to cover everything. We're not going to get into course analytics. We're not going to get into the bells and whistles of the gradebook. We're going to give you the basics. We're going to tell you, here's what you need to do. Here's how you get your shell. Here's how you start loading content into that shell. Here's how you learn about Canvas if you want the app, if you want to learn about navigation. Here's the inbox feature. And as we do this webinar and in-person class training, we'll do some practice. So we'll take you through our sites and show you what it looks like and how all this happens in real time. And then I will talk about the initial steps of laying your class out, setting up some basic things, and then we'll get into what are called all the features. So we'll talk mainly about the syllabus, modules and pages, announcements, files, discussions, videos, assignments, and links. Now, one interesting scenario that Trevor raised that we'll have to talk about, and I call this a fork in the road. Let's say again, this is all hypothetical, nothing is set in stone. Let's say hypothetically in winter we're closed for 3 weeks, and you're teaching a class and it's a poli-sci class, not to pick on poli-sci, I love poli-sci, I love the social sciences, but teaching a poli-sci class, and for those 3 weeks you're meeting Tuesday, Thursday, 11 to 12:50 or something like that. And one possibility could be this. Our traditional DE classes are what's called asynchronous. Asynchronous means you set up discussions and students participate in those discussion boards with a set due date, particular time and date at the end of the week or middle of the week, whenever, but they can complete that work at their own leisure. They could do it at 12 a.m., they could do it at 3 p.m., whenever they like based on their work schedule. If we wanted to though, if a student is already registered for a class in spring and he or she is participating in a class on campus, and that time block is set in a schedule, they're required to be there, I think hypothetically what you could imagine is doing this all via video. There's a really nice feature now within Canvas called Canvas Studio that we'll be talking about in some of these trainings coming up. And there's also, of course, through CCC Confer, Zoom. And so I say this is a fork in the road because you might then decide, if we move to this potential closure situation in spring, of maybe having actual synchronous teaching because you're already meeting at a set time and date here on campus. So more on that to come. But in this training, Trevor and I will take you through all the aspects of the features, and then we'll tell you how to publish it. We'll talk about some resources, and then we'll talk about future trainings, because obviously both of our positions involve, Trevor and my position involve working very closely with you on trainings for DE education. So we do have a plan, and I will just say that things are very fluid. If you turn on the news, if I just open up a web page now, I guarantee it's changed since the last news cycle. Today is another Super Tuesday, so actually there's a lot there, but the breaking news about coronavirus was Walmart confirms coronavirus in one of its stores. I'm finding a lot of interesting dialogue on social media. Actually, quite a few faculty who have heard from and are saying there's too much fear and there's too much hype and the scare is causing problems. And there's another side of people saying, like, particularly people like me who, if any of you live with someone who has a compromised immune system, it is not taken for granted that that person could survive coronavirus. I can tell you that from experience. So I would say we need to be in the middle somewhere. We need to plan. I think the college has been proactive in sending out emails and addressing a potential plan. We have to move quickly, and so a lot of things will be happening. I'm sure at some point in this conversation, one of you might say, well, wait a second, I can't teach my class in a DE format because of blank, whatever issues. Equipment of some sort, or a laboratory situation. That's when that conversation has to happen between you and your dean or department chair, because that's something that Trevor and I can address. We can get you set up on Canvas, we can give you a crash course, which is enough to get you going for spring. And then if you're worried like, well, is this crash course going to be enough? Well, if we close hypothetically many of us will be doing our positions virtually. Treva and I will be able to zoom in and work with you one-on-one in Zoom sessions to answer some of your Canvas concerns and questions. So you're not going to be out in the cold. You're not going to be left out in the cold. We do have a plan. We're not panicking now, but we are being proactive. So I think we're in good shape, but we're going to be moving fast in the next few weeks. Also wanted to mention, we just had an onboarding meeting. It was supposed to be the 2 deans of instruction, but I think Brad had a prior commitment. Allie was there, Dr. Michelle Risden, Kelsey and Sarah from instruction, and also Lori Thorne, myself, and then Treva. And we were talking about a plan about how to figure out the onboarding of part-time instructors. We don't have that in shape yet, but there definitely is a plan about who is going to be the lead-off person, starting with HR, moving to the instruction office, moving to Treva for Canvas training, and then also to me for other forms of onboarding. So certainly more to come about onboarding in the future. Also, a couple MetaMajor events coming up. Depending on when this video is coming out, this one may have already passed, but Friday, March 13th, 11 to 3 here on campus. Frida Kahlo, Freedom Through Expression, a discussion, film showing, free writing session, self-portrait exercise, and so a lot of hands-on stuff. So this will be really cool. Definitely advise you to attend. We're also working on Rowing to America here in the, quote, social science MetaMajor. So more happening with that. We have a rehearsal coming up this Thursday, so a lot of exciting news. If you have other MetaMajor events out there that I don't know about, send me the information. I'd be happy to add that to the next President's Report. I wanted to mention a couple things I was involved in. Brad, Allie, and I did a great presentation. I thought it was really good. Brad, Allie, and I did a presentation for Career Ladders Guided Pathways Project down in Sacramento. We took everyone, all our participants, about 60 people in total, 2 sessions, through what we're doing at the college, our efforts with Pathways, our efforts with MetaMajors, our efforts with SEM, our efforts with Promise, and data use. And I thought it was just a really good opportunity to share the information with other faculty administrators around the state. And I'm featuring this because I try to feature just faculty accomplishments or talks or presentations. So again, if you have something coming up, let me know. But I recently gave a talk at UC Irvine, really cool opportunity for me, related to the subject of toxic subjects in anthropology and how toxic subjects can be represented visually and also through ethnographic writing. So the key one there might be like a disaster like the Union Carbide disaster, which Kim Fortune, who is the current chair at UC Irvine, studied in her really fine ethnography. So my talk was actually working through a series of photographs that I had created. These are actual collages. I had these printed at Amazon. And this particular one was focused on some of my field notes efforts, and I was really talking about visual culture and how different forms of visualization could relate to expressions of various toxic subjects. And down the road, I know they're going to be doing a gallery exhibition, assuming that, again, everything might be on hold with coronavirus, but really cool opportunity for me to connect to some of my anthropology work, and a couple of us from Rice University, the anthropology program, were also represented there. My former advisor, George Marcus, actually is now at UC Irvine. Kim Fortune, the chair, was at Rice a couple years before me. And so it was just really cool to connect with some old colleagues and also to present some of my work, because I love my new position, I love my teaching, but sometimes I don't get to share some of my specific research and writing and field work information with the general public here on campus. So it was a really cool opportunity for me through professional development, and I do appreciate the professional development funding for that talk that I gave. Again, other announcements you have, let me know, and I will get them on the next President's Report. And big thank you to all the folks who have volunteered so generously for the many hiring committees. There are some happening right now, there will be more in the future, and it's always a continuous cycle. HR is always staying on top of things and letting me know when we need appointments. And again, I will be ending my term as Senate President. It is my 5th term, and I'm not going to do 6 terms, so I'm also saying, it's not up here, but I'm encouraging some of you to think about running for Senate President next year, and you will get to potentially appoint some of those hiring committees. That process happens, of course, through HR and the President's office. As usual, if you have any questions that come up about any of the agenda items, come by my office, B101A. I have my comfy new chairs and my new furniture. I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you. And if you want more detailed information about any board items, go to Board Docs, listen to the podcast, and check out what's happening. Exciting stuff on the horizon, things we should pat ourselves on the back for. Also some concerns and some opportunities to be proactive in terms of the looming uncertainty of coronavirus. So be on the lookout for that. If you're at all connected as a faculty member to maybe needing spring training for Canvas shells, connect with me and Treva very shortly, because we do want to get something going as soon as possible. So thanks for listening, and I'll be back, of course, with more President's Reports in upcoming months.